Hey everyone, welcome to the Cast and Spirit podcast. My name is John, and today we have Erica Nelson, the host of the Awkward Angler podcast and a fly fishing guide out of Colorado. This series, we're going to cover a whole bunch of different topics in the fly fishing and outdoors industry. And today we're going to be covering a high-level guide to getting into fly fishing. Welcome to the show, Erica.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, I love to fly fish. I'm honestly not the best at it, and I know that you have been just tearing it up over there in Colorado. So, for those who are maybe offshore fishermen, inshore fishermen, saltwater guys out here who are interested in kind of understanding or trying out fly fishing, it kind of seems a little bit inaccessible if you don't know somebody personally. How would somebody get into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, you don't. I like fly fishing because you don't really need a lot of equipment. So just kind of a rod, a reel, some basic flies, and you're kind of ready to get out on the water. And you can fly fish, saltwater as well. I haven't really done much of that. There's also a perception of you need to be in the Colorado mountains to go fly fishing, but really you can go fishing anywhere. City park, local ponds, etc. So there's a lot of great places that we don't consider. So really, you can go in your backyard if you have a canal or something like that. Just give it a shot.
So there's a bunch of different, options for gears, right? Like you have the big arbor reels, you have, 9 foot rods, you got multi-piece ones. You even got tenkara where you don't have a reel. So
Yeah.
what is somebody doing? Are they going to Amazon and just grabbing a cheap setup until they can figure out the cast? Like there's a lot in my eyes. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we can go grab something and just hit the water and hope for the best. But like, do you have a framework or a methodology that helps you kind of get from point A to point B a little bit easier?
Yeah, that's a good question because once you get into it, you can make it as technical and hard as you'd like, but I like to keep things easy. So really what you're looking for is like a basic 5 weight rod with a 5 weight line and a reel. There's multiple kits that you can get totally on Amazon. You can go to Cabela's. There's some cheap outfits. They typically are under $200. Orbis has, and some other companies also have a great line of beginner rods and reels. So, just kind of finding a cheap kit to get you started is a really great place to start. And those are typically, again, 5 weight, kind of right in the middle. And they range anywhere from 1 to 10. 10 is probably what you're used to on big saltwater or whatnot. But, and a one's like tiny little brook streams and little ponds and little fish. So I always kind of just like to go right in the middle of the road with the 5.
Now, do you also get waiters and stuff like that? Is that a necessary thing? Like, and do you recommend going for practicing in a stream or go towards like the bank of a river or a lake?
Yeah, I would say you don't really need a lot of equipment. So, no waders are necessary. I fished, my first 2 years without waders and a lot of equipment because I didn't really know what I needed. I could get by without a lot of the stuff. You can definitely wet wade, which is just kind of getting in, your shoes and chacos. Water shoes work, maybe some swim shorts, a tank top in the summer, and you're good to go. You really don't need a whole lot of equipment to get started with. And as far as locations, just kind of check out your local area. Maybe there's a park with a pond or a stream. I kind of like a good open space to get started in, and then you can kind of work on casting and whatnot, and just kind of figuring it out. You're always learning something new every day. I've been fishing for over 5 years, and I'm still learning every day as well. So it's kind of one of those things that you can continually build on.
Now, in regards to casting, do you recommend a beginner start, with a roll cast, keep it very simple, or do you recommend they go find like a casting club, which I had no idea even existed, where they
You
have
know,
big
I
ponds of concrete and you just kind of cast in there? What do you recommend they do?
Yeah, it's funny because I've lived in rural areas for over 8 years, and I had no idea that there was casting clubs either until over the last year. So those look like fun. If you have access to one, why not check one out? I only know of the Golden Gate Casting Club. That was one of the first ones that I heard, and it seems super awesome, super fun. A lot of great people that just get to hang out and socialize, and I'm sure that could be a really great community to get started in, if that's accessible for you. Otherwise, what I did is I just got on YouTube and just kind of Googled some casting videos and then tried it out. I kind of fumbly, awkwardly hold my cell phone and try to get service in the middle of nowhere, to kind of look at the casting skills and styles. And I always kind of start learners off with two different types of casting, which is the back cast, which is a lot of what you see on the movies. A lot of people think of a river runs through it, Brad Pitt in that big long cast. I love that. That's super fun. But sometimes that cast isn't conducive to the environment that you're in. Maybe you're in a small stream. There's a lot of bushes around, maybe some trees, and so that roll cast is really going to be really helpful. Kind of getting to specific locations that you're going to need. And again, YouTube worked for me. And so that's a great place to start as well. Or if you have friends that do it as well, just going to a park or in your backyard and just kind of flinging the rod around and getting a feel for it.
Do you ever do the bow and arrow cast?
I do, yeah, yeah. Especially fishing some really tight corners, some streams. There's a lot of overhang bushes, and maybe there's a really great pocket that I want to get to, and so just kind of pulling my line back or my fly back, and kind of shooting for that. And it's a pretty fun cast. I like that cast a lot.
When you take people out on your guide trips, what are the one or two biggest things that you see, like as corrections, like errors that you like are common with newbies?
I'd say people get there's like nothing aggressive about casting. I mean, weather dependent. If it's like a perfect day, there's no wind, nothing. It's a very meditative action, where you're just kind of getting into a rhythm. You're feeling it out, and you kind of know when you get it right. It's just kind of more or less a feeling. And I've seen people kind of get wrapped up in perfectionism, where it didn't feel right, and they keep false casting, which is kind of like continuing in the air, with their fly. And it's the chances are greater of you catching a fish if your fly's on the water and not in the air. So, I kind of see them struggle with perfectionism, and then also kind of speeding up their cast a little bit just because they get so excited, or maybe they're used to like spin casting where you kind of got to huck it out there. So those are kind of some common things that I've seen in people. So it's just like, hey, this is supposed to be meditative. This is supposed to be fun and relaxing. So let's just take a deep breath, and enjoy the river and kind of slower casting down a little bit. It's
When
kind of
they
what I do.
when they cast fast, are you seeing them ever like snap off the fly?
Yeah, that can definitely happen. Typically, what also happens is they get really tangled up, and so it kind of becomes a ball and a nest of line. So we gotta, that's also kind of a life metaphor as well, of knowing when to clip the line and just re-rig. Is kind of a nice little lesson. So again, just slowing down that cast a little bit, is a good life lesson.
I like that. And then when you're looking at do you ever have them look at the back cast, or is it
Oh
always look
yeah.
forward?
No, there's no rules of you have to look forward. I'm like, look at your rod, like look where you're stopping, because that back cast is really important. Where you're stopping like maybe 12, maybe 1 o'clock. And a lot of newbies will kind of go really far back. And that's when they get stuck, or that's when the tangles start to happen. And so it's okay to look at the rod for sure, and making sure that you're stopping at that point.
And now after they listen to all these tips and they're going to catch the fish guaranteed, are they reeling in with their reel, or are they pulling the line and then holding it with their index finger or their other hand? How do you recommend that they
Yeah.
pull it in?
Yeah, either one really. Again, there's kind of no specific rules in fishing. There's different techniques people use in different situations. For example, you have a fish on and maybe it starts swimming towards you, and so you can't get on the reel very fast. So you need to hurry up and strip it in. Or if it kind of runs away from you, then you want it on that reel. And then you're utilizing your drag, to kind of tire the fish out a little bit. I personally always try to get on the reel, but again, sometimes the situation doesn't always call for that.
That's awesome. I think this has been a perfect primer for all you guys who might have been interested in fly fishing, but didn't know where to start. So thank you, Erica. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about what it's like to be a guide. Erica is finishing up her first year as a professional guide, so we're going to talk about that. So guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, just one more thing before you go. Would you find it helpful to get a few fishing tips and tricks sent straight to your inbox? Well, if so, head over to castandspear.com/join and sign up for our weekly newsletter. Tight lines.